सोनपुरेड़ी फुरफुरांदी ऊंची नीची डांडियों मां तुम बिन स्वामी पट मारे चालियो गहरी कदनियों मां. So I just listen to this sound and it penetrates my being. I mean, I got goosebumps, listening to this. After about 4-5 minutes, I see both these women coming down the hillside with a heavy headload of fodder. And when they touched the ground, they were moving away from me. So I just said, Namaste, Didi, aap kya ga rahi thi? Because I don't understand their language. So then she turned around, she looked tired. She said to me, what do you have to do with my song? And you won't believe it, that totally got me transfixed. She's so right. Here I am, an urban woman in a different community environment, and she's saying, what do you have to do with my song? My song has nothing to do with you. And she just walked away. And there begins my journey of understanding women's wisdom as reflected through their songs to understand their culture and their narrative. So then I went a little further. We reached Badrinath. There was a small, like a dharamshala there. I went to the reception and I asked them if they had some paper and pen. And there was no electricity, so they just looked at me quite strangely. Anyway, I wrote down a small synopsis of 10 lines that I would like to study the culture of the women in the Himalayan context and understand their lives and their narratives through their songs. And the next morning, we went to a village called Mana, which is 4 kilometers from Badrinath. It's the last village on the Indian border before you cross over to China. And there, the Saraswati River has its source over here in a gorge. So I was just standing near the river. The river falls about 100 feet before it flows on the ground. And on a bench was a man, 90 years of age, sitting with a coat, huddled up, and he just beckons to me. This is Mana village, very different. The community has Mongoloid kind of features, they're more like Tibetans. So I walk towards him and he says to me in Hindi, अगर आगे पढ़ना चाहती हो तो सरस्वती नदी का पानी पी लो. I've had no conversation with him. I have never met him in my life. How does he know what is in my mind? So today, in the beginning, I think Professor Malik or even Chandrabhanu referred to how do we know what we know? What is knowing? What is the construct of knowing? From what worldview do we know? And I just keep looking at this man. No conversation, no email. I haven't sent him a message, a WhatsApp or whatever. How does he know what he knows? So he just says to me, he said, जानती हो सरस्वती किसका स्वरूप है? So I said, हाँ, शिक्षा की देवी है. So he said कि थोड़ा सा आगे बढ़ के थोड़ा सा पानी पी लो और सब ठीक हो जाएगा. No conversation. So what knowledge system does this come from? Is it indigenous knowledge societies? I'm not going to label it, but it comes from a knowledge system which is not known to me. From my urban upbringing and having been traveled all over the world, I don't know this knowledge system. So anyway, I just look at him. There is something which is moving inside me to walk towards the source of the Saraswati River. I drink some water and then begins this journey, obviously of which I was intended to be a part of. I'm using the word intended, like intention. It was intended that I would be part of this journey. And then I come back to Delhi, submit my synopsis. I get leave for 3 years. And then I start collecting songs. I went into this community of T.D. Garhwal. So I'm not saying that I've collected songs from all districts of Garhwal. And just to show you, illustrate to you women's wisdom, which is inherent in these songs, I'll just give you an example of one category each. I collected 150 songs over 3 years, and the language that they use is Garhwali. They call themselves Garhwalis. They don't say we are tribals. They don't say we are Adivasis. They don't say that we are indigenous people, or they don't say anything. They just call themselves Garhwalis. And then they say, हम TD Garhwal से हैं, हम पौड़ी गढ़वाल से हैं, हम उत्तर काशी से हैं. So they define themselves by the location from where they come. So after collecting 150 songs, I didn't know what to do with the songs. Like I have a basket. So then I sit with the women in a circle, like a dialogue, and I say, how would you like to classify your songs? So firstly, they gave me two broad categories, songs about the natural environment and songs about the socio-cultural environment. And in the natural environment, they talked about the beauty of their land. यूं ठंडू पानी मेरो पहाड़ स्वामी न जावा परदेसा घना देवदार मेरो पहाड़ स्वामी न जावा परदेसा. So the men are not living in the environment because there is no occupation for them to be retained in the environment. So they all migrate to the plains and they work mainly in the northern plains of India. And the women are left in this environment to do all the tasks. So the songs that they sing are describing the beauty of the land. The songs are describing their lament and longing for the men who are away, lament and longing for their mother's home, which they have left when they were young girls, about 12 or 14, when they were married off. So I will just share with you the categories of the songs. I give you one example, and you can see why I have titled this Reinforcing Faith in Women's Wisdom. Women have inherent ecological wisdom. They have wisdom about their environment, about their water resources, about their social relationships. And the songs are also contemporary. The content of the songs is being changed in order to meet the issues that women face in their lives. So let's just go through the different songs. Just one, I'll give you one example from each category. Next. This is just the theoretical background of why oral traditions are important. And I think this group doesn't need to know that. So just to give you the Garhwal, the topographic, because see, the context is very important. Whenever you're looking at a culture, you have to establish its context. So what is the terrain, the geographical terrain? Where do people live? What are their livelihood systems? What do they eat? What is their agriculture? What do they grow? So all this context is very important. Next. So these are the categories in which the women divided. They divided. And another methodological approach I want to share with you, young people who are going to be researchers, that I did not have any dichotomy between the researcher and the research. Women were an integral part of my research. They were always a part. They were participants in the whole process of this documentation. So they decided the categories. It was not mine. And even today, I would like to dedicate this talk to the women whose voices I'm articulating. This is really not my work. This is their voices that I happen to be sharing with you. So these are the 6 categories: natural environment, ecological perspective, songs of celebration, songs that describe the life cycle events, songs which describe social relations. There were songs that describe the work roles of the women. And there were also some songs that describe the beauty of women. Women in Garhwal are very beautiful. Interestingly, these songs are sung by men. And the last section, which I thought was very contemporary, was looking at dissent, protest, and social change, where women had composed new songs on contemporary issues, showing that songs are not static, songs are dynamic, the content is being created all the time. And I have borrowed a saying from Professor Malik, who's sitting here, the anthropologist. I end my book with this quote: tradition is continuous creation in the now. I borrowed it from him. That tradition is not something that is static, that remains like some fossilized thing that we have to look at. It is continuous creation in the now. So let's look at the song. So when I looked at any song, I found that it was multi-layered. In the morning, Professor D.P. Patnaik referred to this word, that our culture is multi-layered. Even the songs I found were multi-layered. Like one song was talking about the distinct features of the season. It would also talk about the presence of Lord Mahadev and Parvati. It would talk about the emotional state of the woman while she's longing for her mother or her husband. It would talk about her social relations. And it would also describe the work role. So within one song, one could experience different layers of meaning. So like the song of the season, Basant Ritu is here, the hillsides are covered with flowers, the koel sings from mountain tops, the sound reverberates in the valley, the man babura, which is a dove, flies from tree to tree singing. The voice reminds me of my husband who is away to a strange land. In Garhwal, people sit near the banks of the river Ganga and enjoy the season. So So you can see these are composed by women. These have not been written by anybody else. They are self-composers. They are the creators of their own songs. I also call every woman in Garhwal an eco-philosopher. She does not have a degree in sustainable development or in environmental studies from Delhi University or JNU, but still, she has inherent knowledge. Look at this song. Dear sisters, do not cut trees. If you cut trees, the soil, mud, earth will disappear. No fields nor houses will remain on the hillside. Trees give us fodder for animals, keep our environment clean, the air pure. Nurture and care for your trees like your own children. Look after them and raise them with care. So this song totally reflects the ecological preservation and the wisdom that women have about their own environment. Yeah, that also. Because, but a lot of the women have created their own songs also. Because, their lives are affected by deforestation. When the forest is cut, women walk longer distances to get fuel wood and fodder. So they are also quite aware of the changes that they need to make in their songs. So here is a song about marriage, Kanyadan. Dear father, give Kanyadan, land and jewels everyone gives, but you, dear father, give Kanyadan and attain salvation. So she's telling her father that everybody gives land, but you give me away in Kanyadan. This song which is composed by a young girl. And here is a song about the birth of a child, again celebrating the birth of a son. Dear son, you are the fruit of my sacrifice. To attain you, I underwent severe austerities and observed all rites and rituals. For you, I bathed in the holy kund of all the shrines in Garhwal. I worshipped all the stones in the name of God. Dear son, may you become that ray of light that illuminates the mountain peaks at dawn. My dear son, may you become the light of my full family. Again, reinforcing the patrilineal trend and the patriarchy which is inherent in the community. So this is a traditional song, and this is not NGO influence. In the social relations, I picked up a song which women sing very often, and they sing this in the forest to the mountain peaks and to the Devdat trees. Dear high mountain peaks, lower yourself. Let me see my mother's home. Dear tall Devdat trees, lower your branches so that I can see my mother's home. We all know that mountains don't bend or trees don't bend, but her longing is so intense for her mother's home that she composes this song and sings it in lament for her mother. Interestingly, women had a very loving relationship with the husband because he only was a visitor to the home. And since only women were left, the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law had a very strained relationship. And to her husband, she says, you, my dear Swami, as in Lord or whatever, are in the city of Delhi. You travel the whole day by car, while I walk on stones to the forest to cut grass. My hands and feet have become torn with deep marks. I have become weak doing such continuous hard work. Please get transferred to Kotdwar and I'll meet you in Haridwar. Because, she's so fed up of living alone without him for so many months. So she's saying that why don't you come to Haridwar and I'll meet you there. So that, and you get transferred to a little town in the plain. And there, the song with the mother-in-law is quite harsh. Dear Sasuji, do not fight with me day and night. I will run away to my husband. My husband will come in a rail. I will burn you alive in tail. That's that's only to rhyme the last word. They're using, sometimes they rhyme in for synchronicity like that. I did not get a picture for the women, singing from one hill to the other. It was very difficult. So next. So I just drew a sketch which you can see, and she's saying that I have a feeling my brother will come today, and the other girl says that don't be silly, nobody ever comes, and then she says that what is the harm in dreaming? There is no tax on dreams. So they continue this dialogue like this, and I call it, actually traditionally in Garhwal this is called Bajuban Geet, but I just called it a dialogue across the hills because that's what I thought they were having, This dialogue was like a narrative. It was a self-expression of the psychological states of their being and provided a kind of catharsis. These songs do not come down from traditional, but are composed there and then depending on what the woman's feelings and issues are. Let's just take one song from Work Roles and Activities. The hot sun is beating on me as I go to collect grass from the jungle. But alas, I find no grass. I walk for miles and miles in search for grass. not a handful do I find. My complexion was golden like haldi. Now I have become dark like a tawa, roaming in these jungles. Oh, what a hard life I have. So in Garhwal, women, do 93% of the agricultural tasks, except for the hal chalana, which the man does when he comes home for the month. This is the Garhwali nose ring is very famous. The nut. So I went to this girl's home where she was getting married. She hasn't changed into her red sari, but she's wearing all the ornaments. She's still wearing her blue sari yet. And the women and men around her are singing the song. You are as beautiful as the stars shining brightly in the sky. The beauty spot on your face and the dimple on your cheeks all add to your beauty. When you smile, it is like 1,000 flowers blooming. Your dark eyes and unruly hair, your soft hands and feet and beautiful teeth indeed make you look like a queen of beauty. So here is a song. They had a lot of songs on aesthetic depiction, describing the beauty of a woman. She's wearing the traditional Garhwali nut. And in fact, she's wearing two. I'll take the last section, which is dissent, protest, and social change. And here, yes, you can see the influence of the NGOs, because now they're talking about the Vedas and the Purans. They're changing the status of the girl child. A lot of the NGOs like Kamla Basin, Abha Bhaiya, Jagori, Mahila Samakhya have got offices now in the communities around Garhwal. And in the Mahila Mandal meetings, they always come and talk about gender, about status, about legal rights. And you can see the influence of the change song. The Vedas and the Purans deny the selling of a girl by her father. A daughter is born from the same womb as a mother, as a son to a mother, but only the son is entitled to parents' property. Taking material wealth in exchange for a daughter is a crime. Do not sell your daughter as though she was a cow. Stop doing this and attain blessings from your daughters. Now these words are very strong, clearly reflect a lot of influence, outside agency influence that has come. But what I want to say is that the women have composed songs which reflect mobilizing women's power and dissenting the presence of the timber mafia, which is cutting their trees so that it affects their lives. So, and against alcoholism. They have fought against liquor licenses which have been given by the government authorities to many people. And in fact, I met the district DM of TD Garhwal, and she told me that 32 licenses have been given by me to liquor shops along the road, which the women are protesting against. So songs are created, some by the women, some by the influence of NGOs. We can't isolate these influences. There's also television, there's also radio. And in fact, these songs were collected about a decade and a half. I'm now going to go back into this community and see how the songs have been changed and whether they are reflecting the cultural fabric of the region. So I just want to end with a song that women sing describing a berry in the forest when they go for cutting fuel and fodder. Teri kali khagari pingala butka bhala loga pilandi ras ka gutka ईसरा तेरा क्या करूं मैं बखान भला लोगा पिलांदी रस का गुटका. Thank you.
The Koans of Kalahandi, a very primitive tribe of Odisha, have been practicing their religion and festivals down the centuries in order to safeguard their family and community from evil spirits. Konabira or puberty rites is a ceremonial practice which symbolizes their religious faith. Religion practices are performed for moral and spiritual satisfaction of human beings. Konabira makes a Kon virgin as marriage worthy, and therefore the celebration of Konabira is a ritualistic declaration of the girl being ready for the marriage. Konabira is a social function for the girls of rural area in Kalahandi. It is observed among the scheduled tribes, scheduled castes and other backward castes of the district. The majority of the scheduled tribes of the undivided Kalahandi includes Kon, Gon, Sabar, Gunjia, Bhatra, Binjal and Dub. Dom, Gona, Chamaras, Ghasia, Panga and Gondas are the major scheduled castes. Similarly, Gaur, Mali and Teli are the important other backward castes. There is a striking similarity in terms of the performance of the rituals. Unabira involves matriarchic rituality. Among some societies, Kanabara is observed for a couple of days, whereas in other societies it is for a week-long celebration. On the fast day, the girl is given a ritual bath with turmeric paste and oil. She is given a bath by the married women of the society. On the second day, after the ritual bath, she wears a new cotton sari, specially brought from her maternal uncle's house or brother-in-law's house. Then she is made to sit on the altar closer to a Mahua stomp and an arrow. Her brother-in-law ties a thread around the neck of the girl and also around the arrow, which culminates in the celebration of Kanabara. The village deities are also invoked to bless the virgin. It is followed by a community feast and the girl is showered with gifts from the relatives. It is widely believed that if a girl attains maturity in her parents' house before the Kanabara, for the girl is observed, nobody marries the girl. According to the custom, the girl is left in the forest adjacent to the village. The ill-fated girl is later rescued by her brother-in-law or some other relatives who take the responsibility of her marriage. Of course, things are generally changing nowadays. Girls are no more left inside the forest. Kanabira is observed just like Gonsan of a marriage ceremony. On this day, an altar is prepared like a marriage altar, where a stem from a Mahua tree is placed along with an arrow. This stem and arrow are named Jokhota, which represents and symbolizes the bridegroom for the premature girl. Then, following the rituals, the marriage of the girl is solemnized with the arrow, or known as Kona, and bridegroom is known as Boro. So, this function is known as Kanabara. Kanabara as a social function is highly symbolical in this region. It attaches a great value for the girl in social as well as private life. It is a ritualistic declaration of her coming of age for marriage. A girl of this community whose Kanabara is solemnized gets social sanction of the marriage, even if she has married a groom of her own choice. At this point, her parents' objection to her choice does not make much difference, for she gets social sanction of her marriage. Therefore, Kanabara function of a girl child in the Kon community underscores much importance in her marriage and provides ample freedom to choose a groom for her life partner. Socially speaking, this function creates a social awareness. The society as a whole celebrates the puberty or womanhood of the girl. This function is performed either for an individual girl child or for some 5 to 7 girls. The girls are congregated for this function and celebrated as described earlier. The expenditure incurred for this function doesn't become a burden on the parents because it is celebrated like a marriage ceremony where friends and relatives share the burden. Conclusively, puberty rites provide an insight into the fertility cult whereby virgin is equated to Dharni, the deity earth, at a psycho-religion level, and consequently necessitates a passage of rites which undergird the privileging of the woman in the institution of intertribal social transaction. In this proposed paper, endeavor has been made to highlight salient features of Kon's worldview as interwoven in the myth and rituals associated with the puberty rites Kanabara. Thank you.
Women are the carriers of culture in every society. Though she is kept outside or rather considered untouchable from most ritualistic practices, it is she who transmits the finest expressions of culture to the younger generation. Concern for her family in particular and community in general makes her a natural cultural carrier. The little details she takes to decorate her household, the pains she takes to feed her family with delicious and nutritious cooking, and her art of managing friends and relatives of the family is constantly observed by her children. She consoles the sleepless child with her melodious lullabies and enchanting stories. These songs and stories are great comforters for her children, not just temporarily, however. They are the pillars of psychological support during their growing years. These songs and stories are usually unwritten and whenever they are reproduced, acquire newer color and meaning. When a girl child is born into a household, the mother begins to train her daughter in all these routine activities. Nevertheless, the home which the mother thus builds will not always be as cozy as it has to be. The traditional role of a mother who is a cook, who is subservient to the father, who in turn is the head, the provider, and the decision maker of the family, changes when the financial need of the family alters. The mother has to respond to the growing demands of the family. She has to accommodate a new role as a additional provider of the family. Apart from her traditional education at home, she has to go out to the school and learn to face the society. With the support of the government and many private institutions, educating girls has slowly picking up pace. The language which is spoken at home may not be the same which is used in teaching at school. Universal education has opened newer worlds to girls who are otherwise confined to the four walls of their homes. However, the challenges of the new world take them away from home, the community, and eventually away from their language and culture. There is a need to understand this linkage between the idea of development through universal education and making them lose the strong bond of culture and language, leading us to monoculturalism. I am talking about the Toda community in particular in Nilgiris. The Toda are a predominantly traditional pastoralist tribe who have recently turned to agriculture because of government and private initiatives. They were forced to become agriculturists because of the growing population pressure on the fragile ecosystems of Nilgiris. From the colonial past, the Nilgiris have been subjected to modernization in various ways. The grasslands and the Shola forests were acquired for developmental projects like construction of new townships, tea estates, and hydroelectric projects, thus endangering the ecosystem of the region as well as the classical tribal enclave. This tribal enclave, why this is referred as tribal enclave? Because it includes population from Kota, Kurumba, Paniya, Irula, and Toda, and recently Badaga as well. The Toda way of life, which is largely buffalo rearing, is exclusively male oriented. The Toda women are prohibited from tending to the buffaloes and related activities. Thus, traditionally, the Toda women are kept outside the economic activities of the tribe. However, Toda women are extraordinarily gifted in their embroidery skills, which they practice to decorate their clothes and homes. This traditional activity has gained a new dimension in the current context of tribal development and tourism in the Nilgiri belt. The Nilgiri is remarkable for its flora and fauna. The cultural milieu of the area is also rich with many tribal groups, including which share the green hills of Nilgiris. Todas, who were the pastoralists, Kotas, the artisans, musicians, and cultivators, Kurumbas, the hunter-gatherers, originally inhabited this region. The Badagas arrived only recently in the 16th century as agriculturists. In the colonial period, the region was transformed into the seat of government of the presidency of province of Madras. It was an important military base and many missionary stations were established. This development attracted people from the surrounding plains. These people came to the hills as plantation laborers. Many came to work for the British. This influx has not only affected the human habitat, but also put pressure on the rich endemic biodiversity of the Nilgiri biosphere reserve. The grasslands of Nilgiri hills are at least 3,000 years old. Eminent botanists von Lingerke and Glasgow discussed the Toda practice of maintaining these grasslands through periodic burning. Conventional agriculture was introduced only after the advent of the Badagas, that is, some 300 years ago. These grasslands were converted into tea plantations, eucalyptus or wattle plantations. This has resulted in the severe degradation of the ecology of Nilgiris and its endemic species. So, many anthropologists have also worked on these tribes and in the peoples of the Nilgiris, Eminu, Paul Hawkins, David Mandelbaum and others, Anthony Walker and others. I'll skip some of the pages. The Toda attracted the attention of European researchers because of their striking physical appearance. Men and women traditionally wear a white cotton robe crossed by broad red bands surrounded by black, blue and red colored geometric embroidery, which you can see from the slide there. Many men adorn thick bushy beard while women dress their hair in long ringlets on their side. Modern Toda wear their traditional clothes on the ceremonial occasions. The Toda way of life, which is largely buffalo rearing, is exclusively male oriented. The Toda women are prohibited from tending to the buffaloes and related activities. They live in munds, a group of huts with a dairy temple, a pen for the buffaloes and a shed to shelter calves. The Toda hut is called arsh, shaped like a half cylinder, is primarily constructed of wooden planks, bamboo, reeds and grass. There will be a single entrance to the hut with a rectangular opening of about 2.5 feet high by 2 feet wide. This is to out cold and dampness in these high hills. On either side of the doorways raised, the windowless hut in the interior is dark and consists of a single raised platform which serves both as sitting and sleeping area. On the farthest end of the hut is placed, which is the kitchen. This keeps the hut warm always. That is the traditional way of dressing up. They are husband and wife, men and women. They are decorating their hairs for dancing before they perform. Next, they are dancing, singing and dancing. They are showcasing their culture to the tourists. That is how they sell their products. That is the shawls they are wearing, the embroidered shawls. Next, she is Neela Sen, who has fought who is the leader of this group, and this is the Nilgiris from Mysore. This is from the tribal museum in Nilgiris. These are the people of the original people of the Nilgiri hills. Next, this is the temple. What we can understand from that structure, this is the temple. This is actually a dairy. Next, this is how the house looks from inside. Toda Mand, this is called the Mand, Arsh rather. This is how it is. They decorate their household. Next, this is the cooking platform, which is placed at the right side of the arsh, which keeps the entire mud very warm. Next. This is Toda women dancing during a marriage. Men dancing, singing and dancing. That's all. What about the embroidery? They have many songs about the nature, the events of their life events and everything. But since she is not allowed to do her traditional activity of, she is not even allowed to touch the buffalo. They even say that they Toda practice female infanticide, which I have no cases, or I cannot say that they practice, but I have read that they practiced a female infanticide. I don't know, but the present day Toda women have found themselves empowered themselves through their traditional skill of embroidery. That is what I have found. Since the beginning of 20th century, Toda have been organizing themselves in various groups to voice their presence in the Nilgiris. All these groups came into existence to address a specific situation. Some such groups are Toda Welfare Committee, which was established in the year 1926. Ironically enough, no Toda was a member of this committee. This was formed under the chairmanship of district collector, and the members included Indians and British. This committee addressed some of the important issues that were concern of the community: polyandry, child marriage, buffalo sacrifice during funerals, reluctance of the male members to adapt themselves for agriculture, increased alcoholism, indebtedness, wife capturing, and the defloration of pubers and females were some such issues. This I have seen: alcoholism, indebtedness, and wife capturing I have seen during my fieldwork. This committee was responsible in establishing the Toda Cooperative Society in 1928, which would lend the Toda debtors and the necessary money to pay their debts. The society was existent only for a few years because it failed to repay the government loans. After the independence, many societies have been established and have done fairly good job. Toda Uplift Society in the year 1956, Toda Embroidery Development Center in the year 1958, Toda Self-Help Society in 1977 are some such groups which were established to address specific issues, and many Toda women in particular were members of this group. The Toda today practice both pastoralism and agriculture. The educated Toda have taken up jobs in government and private sectors. Toda have found jobs in industries like Hindustan Photo Films, needle industry, cordite factory at Avarakadu, National Textile Corporation, and government establishments like the railways, post and telegraph offices, and tribal research center. However, the important and the crucial in that is that the Toda women have found their traditional embroidery work to find them new identity. The rich red, blue, and black colored designs on thick white cotton cloth have given their traditional portfolio an aesthetic edge. This has given them not just economic independence but also a distinct Toda identity. The designs for the embroidery are again from their traditional lifestyle, the key figures being the buffalo horn. They also have other designs like the wildflowers and mountains. According to Vasamalli, the base color white is the indicator of innocence, the color red depicts adolescence, and the black, which is otherwise is considered inauspicious in the Toda context, is believed to be a symbol of maturity. The Toda women have been creative and have experimented with their embroidery skill on table mats, bags, jackets, and runners. Many groups like Toda Nalavazu Sangam, Keystone Foundation, and Pompuhar Tamil Nadu Handicrafts Development Corporation together worked, and they were successful in their efforts to gain GI certificate. They have even managed to get it, fought for it and got it. Geographical indication certificate for their unique embroidery. Because of this certificate, the Toda can be ensured of uniform pricing for their products, and at the same time the art cannot be duplicated. This has also helped to market their products effectively. This culture-centric economic activity has allowed the Toda women leverage their existing traditional skills and develop new proficiencies that translate these skills into economic freedom. According to a survey conducted by Save Nilgiris, an organization working among the tribes of the Nilgiris, with the assistance of Tribal Research Center Ooty, the total share of this embroidery work in the economy of the Toda is around 15.15%. Buffalo herding and selling of dairy products amount to a total of 62.8%, and cultivation, which includes agriculture and horticulture, amounts to a total of 13.69%. These figures only indicate that a traditional lifestyle with a little intervention of modernity can be translated into a sustainable economy. The story of the Toda women in using their traditional skills to gain economic freedom is a journey in itself that can enable women in other rural and tribal contexts to understand their own strengths and attain the confidence to venture into entrepreneurship. The group of women wearing their richly embroidered shawls will very proudly present their work and are eager to speak about themselves. They also sing and dance for their visitors, the beautiful Nilgiris locales, which is their home, and given them the confidence to be free in their own way. Toda women have pursued higher education, have gained post-graduation degrees from universities. However, this cannot be the case of every Toda woman. She needs to find herself in her own home. Because the Toda woman's spirituality originates from the Nilgiri mountains, the buffaloes and the dairies associated with it, Toda have been strongly attached to all these factors in very different way today, because all the above mentioned things and they themselves are closely interlinked. Likewise, they have derived new meanings in their singing and embroidery as they bring them a distinct identity, a speciality. In spite of rapid urbanization and the loss of their lands, they gained strength to survive with pride only through their traditional lifestyle. This was evident when Neela Sen, a Toda woman, the leader of Melgar's Patrick Clan women's self-help group, proudly displays and also wears a traditional Toda embroidered shawl when questioned about Toda traditions. She proudly sings songs of her ancestors and she herself composes, thereby keeping the tradition alive. One thing that was very conspicuous during the fieldwork done in OT, that the women of the Toda were the real cultural carriers. They know the importance of culture, at the same time, they know how to keep it alive by bringing in required changes while administering it in real life. Thank you.
Thank you all the speakers. So we've had now 3 papers, one on the women in Garhwal, and the other is on the puberty rights of girl child and amongst the Kones, and the third now was on the embroidery of Todas. So if there are any questions to any of the presenters, we'll take it. We'll probably give about 10 minutes.
What happens in society is that because the mother-in-law has suffered so much when she was a young girl in the family. I mean, yesterday, day before I gave the same talk to American students, and they were saying, on the one hand, you are saying that women live together and they have a common bonding. On the other hand, you are projecting that there is a kind of a perpetuation of violence by the mother-in-law and terrorizing the young daughter-in-law. So this kind of perpetuation does continue and is reflected in the songs because she has suffered like this. Many of the songs which the mother-in-law sing reflect that, she was traumatized by her mother-in-law. She used to go to the forest and very early in the morning. She would just get one manduaki roti with a little salt to eat. So now she is perpetuating the same kind of thing. So in order to protest against that, the younger daughter-in-laws who are now getting more modernized and have got influence of schooling and all, maybe they are incorporating these kind of terms. And it's not that there is no bonding because their life experiences are similar. That, even in the urban areas, women are the ones who are perpetuating the dowry tradition, not so much the men. So there is a dichotomy here in understanding, or a paradox. It is, the influence of so many other agencies that is happening. It can't be just a pure thing. I can't isolate that the song is just a pure traditional song. There are other influences that are coming. For her to, say something like this, it's a very harsh statement. That, yeah. So, some of the songs that reflect the life cycle events, the celebration at birth or the Haldi Chandan, even for marriage, like I have about 30, 40 songs, just marriage songs, describing different ceremonies, even when uski bidai ho rahi hai. So even go dharana, all kinds of different aspects. I haven't shared with you all that. These songs are traditional songs, but the new songs, the dissent, protest and social change, the contemporary songs which are related to issues that are affecting women's lives. Like there are many songs about the Teri Dam. Now see, the Teri Dam is displacing women from their own villages. And does displacement not affect human beings' lives? And women have created songs to mark this event in their lives. They have created songs to mark events where even a bus has fallen into a river and people have died. So songs get created at all aspects of people's lives in a community. So there are some songs, if dating is important, I can find out about the dating. I was not looking at dating. I was just looking at women's songs in the community, how you can take a woman's song and look into a culture. It's like looking in. Like you look into a mirror and a mirror reflects something. Does the song that women sing on various occasions, on various times, reflect something about their culture? And so I use songs. Being a development communication person, I could have looked at radio and its influence on 300 women. I could have looked at television. But those are again quantitative indicators of development. I looked at oral traditions that 80% of India's population, and it is a subsystem that spreads across the whole country. So why don't we use this medium of communication, oral communication, which is used by communities to express themselves, and it is so much an integral part of their own cultural being and their lived experience. So to understand the culture, I use the song as an entry point into that culture.
Many changes have happened over the years, sir. But they live in their own traditional, and many people want them to live in their own traditional houses because that gives them more warmth and lesser fuel consumption. that is ecologically viable in Nilgiris. If they start living in concrete houses, it requires more fuel to keep it warm. So instead of living in that concrete houses, they prefer to live in their own homes. That's what I have observed. And many activists are for it, and they are promoting traditional lifestyle. And many Toda girls, especially girls, because alcoholism is severe among the Toda men. So what I have found, Toda girls are well educated, and many of them have completed their post-graduation. And one girl is a dentist, and she has been felicitated by the Tamil Nadu government. So many change has occurred, but I am talking about the ordinary woman who cannot leave her house and who can be independent in her own house. That is more important. There can be special cases, but every case needs to be a special one because she has every right to live like that. That was my point.
I just want to say thank you to all the speakers. I think for me, this session was very dear to my heart. One thing is it talked about everyday lives of women, and it is about how do we know what we know. And I think these things are really critical for all of us to reflect on, especially when we are talking about narrativizing indigeneity. Although I know Anjali said right at the outset, I'm not using any of those words, but I think it's important because even in the first session we had this debate about who is indigenous, what is indigenous. So I think it's in that context it's good to just bear this in mind. Thank you.